Oh, yeah. 5-star. LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going off to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This is the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up, hey. 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 Way down in the back.
Hey, we are live. It is victory week for the LSU Tigers here in the Tigers Avenue. Going to discuss Zach, we're going to discuss the butt whooping that ensued on Saturday. Going to give a little recap on that. What a game. Indeed, it was quite impressive. 41-14. LSU Tigers open up their SEC play in dominant fashion. Zach, we'll get you a little around the college football world and then a little something extra to wrap things up. Zach, how are we feeling? How are we feeling after this past weekend? Any immediate thoughts?
Man, it just sucks, man. I really wish we had a quarterback that could throw downfield. No, I'm coming for the haters, man. Let me come for the hate. Matthew Brune, you're a hater, bro. Let me
Matthew
come for some more haters.
Man, name dropping. Golly, we making enemies.
Billy Odd Go. You're a hater, bro.
Whoa.
I could call out more, but I'm gonna stop right there. Because
we're making enemies on TA. Wow, unlike us.
I didn't say they could be I didn't say they had to be our enemy. I said you're a hater.
I'm kidding.
You're a hater. There's more. That was just like a couple people went back and forth.
Oh, there is a lot more
on Twitter. There's a lot more. Let me tell you that. Listen, I don't know what else he's got to prove. What else does he have to prove, Reagan? The man went.
I don't know.
The man beat freaking Alabama last year and led you to the freaking SEC West championship and led you to the SEC championship. You didn't win, but he led you there. And
you weren't expecting
to. It's a team effort, bro. Jaden Daniels was like 75% or more. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but he was at least 70% or more of your offense last year. Get the frick out of here, man. You don't think listen, and we were the ones that said it. We were the ones that said it, right? Did he need to throw down more field?
Yeah.
Down the field more? Yes.
Yeah.
But we weren't the ones up in here saying that JD is a terrible quarterback, that he can't throw downfield, and that he needed to be replaced. Now, again, I want to make an emphasis here because I am not saying that I think Garrett Nussmeier is a bad quarterback. I'm not saying that I don't trust Garrett Nussmeier. I'm not saying that I don't like Garrett Nussmeier. I love Garrett Nussmeier. I cannot wait for him to be our starting quarterback next year. And I'm looking forward to what the team is going to look like under Garrett Nussmeier next year. But you cannot tell me that Jaden Daniels doesn't make this team better right now. Like right now. He makes this team better. He makes this team better. He was the reason you along with Malik, along with Logan Diggs and the defense performance, stepping up. We're going to talk about that. He's the reason you went out there and dominated Mississippi State. Okay. If you don't have Jaden Daniels, we don't know how the game goes. We don't know, right? You don't have the escapability that Jaden Daniels have if he's not on the field. You don't have the been able to get out of the pocket. I mean, he made some big plays where he was able to get out of the pocket and scramble. He also made plays where the pocket was collapsing and he stayed strong, stayed back behind the line of scrimmage, found guys open and hit them, right? Like, I'm done. I'm done with it. This is my last time I'm going to talk about it. Jaden Daniels.
He's the starter, period.
If you're not on the Jaden Daniels bus, then I don't want to hear from you anymore. I don't want to hear from you. Don't come in our Twitter. Don't come in our DMs. Don't mention me on Facebook. I don't care. I'm done. I'm done with you. I have nothing else. He has nothing else to prove. I have nothing else to debate because there is no debate, right? I'm gonna go back to 2019. What's his face? Alex. What's his name? When he was like, there is really no debate on who's the best team in college football or who's the best team.
I think you're talking about Greenberg, Mike Greenberg.
Greenberg. I'm done arguing because there is no debate. Jaden Daniels is a phenomenal quarterback. He is an elite quarterback. Guess what? Jaden Daniels is out-dueling last year's Heisman currently. Okay? I'll say that. It's early, right? Currently, he's out-dueling last year's Heisman. All right? I'm done. There is no debate. Jaden Daniels is this team's quarterback, and I am staying behind him no matter what. Okay, unless there is an absolute colossal fail, and this dude just becomes out of this world, horrible, and he becomes not even Jaden Daniels. He's not even himself. I'm behind this dude. Okay, so all you little hashtag nuts, get out of here. Get behind this year's team. That's next year's team. Get behind this year's team because Jaden Daniels is running this ship. Yeah. And I'm done. Okay, now I'm done.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a leader. He's a leader.
He's a leader.
He's very clearly a leader, voted as a captain by all his teammates. I think they've made a pretty clear emphasis on him beginning to be this year a vocal leader, whereas last year he probably wasn't. He was new to the team. He was a great quarterback last year, obviously. I
mean, you saw what Mason Smith said on the LSU Gold. Last year, he was a quarterback. This year, he's our guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Last year, I mean, and you got to remember how late it was whenever he was coming on. Like, I mean, he was brand new to the team,
summer.
Right?
Yeah, he was coming in in the summer.
And so Mason, when he said that, it was perfect. Last year, he was our quarterback. This year, he's our guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. I mean, he's the leader of the team. I think that's very clear. We finally got to see that chemistry we were talking about between Malik and Jaden finally work out. I mean, that is what we had saw. I feel like and been seeing and been hearing of the hookup between Jaden and Malik Neighbors all off season, fall camp. It just looked like it was special. And boy, was it special on Saturday. Jaden Daniels, no question whatsoever, is the guy. He is the guy. Zach, he might be the best quarterback in the SEC. And I would say he's leaning that way. He is leaning that way.
I would say it's between him and Dart. Now, I mean, you've got some guys out there. You've got some guys out there.
Dart's a good quarterback, though.
Yeah. You've got some guys out there that are good quarterbacks, like really good quarterbacks, but they don't have the team around them. Jaden has a team around him, right? Like, I think Will Rogers is a great quarterback. He doesn't have the team around him, and he doesn't have the offensive, which we'll talk about that, but he doesn't have the offensive coordinator that is catering to his strengths, right? I think KJ is a good guy.
Period. Jeez.
I think KJ is a good quarterback too. I also think there's some struggle there between offensive coordinator and the scheme of what they're doing with KJ. Now, and he's been banged up. Listen, KJ's been banged up. Okay. But listen. I agree with you. I think he is debatably the number one quarterback in the SEC. He's definitely top three. He's definitely top three, no doubt.
Yeah, there's no question he's top three. He, in my opinion, and maybe I'm biased, but he's number one. I like Dart. I like KJ Jefferson. I don't think they bring to the table what Jaden Daniels does. I really don't. Dart is a great. Really great in the passing game. He's decent in the run game. Definitely not Jaden in the run game. KJ Jefferson has the run game, has the passing game. I think that Jaden is more accurate than KJ Jefferson, and he's more elusive than KJ Jefferson in the run game. KJ also has the size in his favor, but I mean, if you want to say KJ Jefferson, Jaden Daniels is 1A, 1B, but I don't know. I really think Jaden's the best in the entire conference, and I don't. I think that will continue to prove itself throughout the season. But Jaden's the guy, no doubt. Jaden is no question your guy. All right, Zach. Let's talk about the game. It was dominant from. I mean, man,
Start to finish.
Start to finish, it was absolutely dominant. I was really surprised. Maybe, just maybe, Zach. Maybe, just maybe, the LSU loss to begin this year is exactly what LSU needed. Maybe, just maybe, LSU's not a subpar, middle-of-the-road team. Maybe, just maybe, Florida State is really that good. And you had to play them week one. Look, not making excuses, but and even that's what Brian Kelly said. But we started 14. What was it, like 14 transfers and or like 14 transferred played in that game, and several freshmen, and so a bunch of new people figuring it out. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was similar to last year on the defensive side of the ball. You were figuring it out on the defensive side of the ball. Again, you didn't have Mason Smith. Obviously, Harold Perkins was playing a new position, and your whole secondary has been remade and has got new players in it. So I think as the season goes on, this secondary is going to continue to grow and continue to get better. I think Denver Harris is definitely a starter. He looked great on Saturday. But the defense as a whole really took a step forward, in my opinion. The offense took like 3 jumps forward. I mean, that was just – the offense gave you everything that we have been looking for on Saturday. Everything. Everything you wanted out of Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, everything you wanted on pushing the ball, getting into the end zone. I mean, he gave you everything. I mean, he literally threw 2 touchdowns that were over 25 yards. One of them may have been 22 yards, but they were over 20 yards. I know 4th and 7, it was like a 36-yard touchdown pass to Malik. I almost thought Malik had another one on the sidelines when he caught the ball on the 1-yard line, and then he had the other big pass that Jaden kind of put behind him. If he hits him in stride, Malik probably scores a 3rd touchdown. Regardless, though, he was wide open, and Jaden found him, and that is what we've been looking for. And man, it was just a dominance on the offensive side of the ball. Logan Diggs, Caleb Jackson have seemingly separated themselves as the most obvious choice for running back 1, running back 2. Now, Josh Williams is going to continue to be used because Caleb, according to Brian Kelly, has some things to work on in terms of blocking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But man, is he electric with the ball in his hands. I mean, is he a force?
Yeah.
And I mean, Zach, he looked like Lenny Jr. out there.
100%.
Truck sticking that guy.
Exactly. I mean, when I saw him up close for the first time, like just in pads and like pause, like this dude's just like absolutely shredded coming out of his pads. I was like,
he's huge.
Holy cow. Like this dude's 18. Like this dude, I'm 26 and this dude could be my dad. Like, holy moly.
Yeah. I mean, he's stout, and it's pretty amazing considering he didn't play his senior year. He had a leg injury and sat out his entire high school senior season. Kept up with it. I know he was here, during the summer. So Jake Flint and them, I'm sure had him getting right. Man, he is a stud though, and Logan Diggs continues to prove that he is a stud. I mean, man, on that 3rd down block that he laid, beautiful. I mean, absolutely beautiful. He was in the pocket with Jaden. The blitz came. He laid a block, and the guy hit the ground, and
then
he didn't
got
get back up.
Yeah.
He didn't get back up. You are seeing this team figure out who they are. You're seeing Brian Kelly and his coaching staff, fit the puzzle pieces that really make this machine work really well. And I think we're going to build on it this Saturday. But, man, Saturday against Mississippi State, it was so sweet. Zach, what are your thoughts, your highlights? There's a couple. There's one guy that I really want to talk about.
I already know.
And maybe you'll bring him up. There's one guy that I want to talk about outside of who we've been talking about already with Jaden and Malik and Logan. And there's one player that needs to be on the field a whole lot more. Zach, go ahead. Go ahead, though.
I know exactly who you're referring to, but I mean, for me, the biggest thing was the defense. The defense, we were really concerned about it, especially, in regards to the second half of the Florida State game. And also, I mean, the first few drives of the Grambling game. I mean, it just didn't look good. I mean, and it was very concerning. The secondary, as we know, looked very suspect, and that kind of was proven against Florida State in the second half and early on in the Grambling. You didn't see any of that, Reagan. You didn't see any of that in this game. Why?
Right.
Why was that, Reagan? Was it because they were great? I think yes, but I think it's also a combination of what we listed as one of the biggest TA tools for Triumph, which is getting after the quarterback. And LSU got after the quarterback. I think they had, 4 sacks on the day as we're scrolling through.
Yep.
Harold Perkins had a sack. Mekhi Wingo had a sack. Major Burns had a sack. I know Savion Jones. There it is. Savion Jones had a sack. So, 4 total sacks on the day. And you had
you were pressuring him. I mean, you were pressuring him.
And there was a lot of pressures as well. You had 7 TFLs. I mean, you were aggressive and you got after the quarterback, and that is only going to help where your weakness is, which is in the secondary. As you mentioned, I thought Denver Harris. When you don't hear their name mentioned a whole lot as a corner, that's usually a good thing. Unless there's a turnover and they got an interception. Like when you don't hear their name mentioned, and I don't hardly ever remember hearing Denver Harris' name mentioned. I don't ever remember really seeing the ball passed on his side. Now there was a few times that Zy Alexander got beat. And I think, he's going to work through that, but Zy Alexander also made some good plays. So I think the corners are kind of coming along now. I was really excited to get to see some young guys like Ryan Yates step up and made some big plays.
Yep.
Andre Sam was flying around the ball, Reagan. Andre Sam, outside of the freshman, which I'll let you talk about, that was really impressive. Probably the most impressive defender, outside of the usual suspects to me was Andre Sam, because he was flying around. He is almost as sure of a tackle as there is, man. I mean, if he is if he is on the ball carrier, man, that dude's going down. Like, I thought the tackling was really good. We had, there wasn't many times that I saw where LSU took bad angles, or they were trying to tackle with their shoulder, or just trying to knock a guy over. Like they were very disciplined and wrapping up. I mean, the defense made some massive strides this weekend, and is part of that because maybe it was Mississippi State? Yeah, maybe. We're gonna find out as the season goes along more about this defense, but I think they took a major step up this weekend. And that was the most comforting thing for me to see, was that after, they had been, they had a really rough second half against Florida State and a really bad first quarter against Grambling. And a lot of people were talking about this defense and talking about the secondary and, just all those different things. Like, they took a massive step in a positive way this weekend. Also, you kind of got to see Harold Perkins be able to be himself a lot more. He was filling up the stat sheet. I mean, he had a pass breakup on a shot that they took to the corner of the end zone. Harold I would like for him to get turned around, but I'm not going to blame him. He's not a corner. He doesn't have.
He still made the play though. Still made the
But he
play.
still, he saw the ball.
But yeah,
He saw the ball arrive, and he got his hand there and made the deflection. So, made some good plays. He obviously had the sack. He had a lot of pressures. I would like to see him. It seems like a lot last year. There was a lot of times last year that he was able to get around his blockers. We're not seeing that as much this year. And maybe that's because, obviously teams have done a lot of film study on him and have been able to counteract that a little bit. But I do believe that as he progresses, you're going to continue to see him get better and better and be more like the Harold Perkins that we saw last year. So, but outside of that, Reagan, I think the biggest thing that we want to talk about, probably not the biggest thing, but one of the biggest things that we want to discuss is the emergence of Whit Weeks.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. Whit Weeks was, it's hard to say the highlight of the day. I'll say for defensively, Whit Weeks was the highlight of the day.
I can't disagree there. I thought Andre Sam had a phenomenal game, but I can't disagree with you.
Andre Sam, it felt like the dog was let out the cage a little bit with Andre, and it was like what we've been hearing about Andre. Finally, you kind of got to see that. Saturday, it felt like the intensity was turned up. Finally, that LSU edge that we're used to on defense, it was there. That dog in him was there. It was present. Between the white lines, it was like we were aggressive and attacking, and we let them know about it a few times too. Obviously we don't want to go too far and be penalized in that, but you finally saw, like there was a screenplay I think that happened, and Perkins got the TFL, and the guy stood back up. Perkins was right there in his face, and about four other guys, LSU players. I think it was like Denver Harris and Whit Weeks and maybe Major Burns. They all just stood around him. Like, I want to see a still photo of that exact moment. It was like, cool. Okay. I was like, it was kind of like that moment was like, all right, they're here now. Like, the dog has been let off the leash. But man, Whit Weeks was phenomenal. He is your tackling leader for the day, man. He had 8 tackles. And the stat sheet doesn't really, I feel like, show all that he did. He has a suddenness to him, a quickness to him. He was sent on a delayed blitz at one point. He was sent on a delayed blitz at one point. He shot the gap with really aggressive speed, and he wasn't able to get the sack. But Will Rogers was able to get the ball out, but Whit laid a hit on him. He was flying around the field. He was active as anybody. And it was very evident that Whit Weeks needs to be on the field in a regular on a regular basis. I was letting you get switch back around there, Zach. But Whit Weeks needs to be on the field on a regular basis now. I mean, there is no excuse to leave him off the field. I love Omar Spates. Maybe he's been playing injured. Maybe he's not been 100%. But regardless, Whit Weeks needs to play more. When Omar gets healthy, do I say that you start Whit Weeks over him? I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm not the head coach, but if he keeps playing like that, I don't see why not. I don't see why at some point he doesn't start. I know also Brian Kelly really, really likes Greg Penn from a leadership standpoint. Greg Penn, according to BK, always is making sure guys are lined up, always making sure that they're in the right position, making sure they're in their gaps correct, and is a very clear vocal leader on the field. So it's going to be really hard to try and put Whit Weeks in over Omar or Greg Penn. But at the same time, you may find yourself in a situation where the freshman is just that good, you can't keep him off the field. That's where you found yourself last year with Harold Perkins. Every time he was on the field, he was doing something great. He was doing something incredible, making plays happen, wreaking havoc. And Whit Weeks was doing that Saturday. And he was doing it with relative ease. And for his size, he was moving swiftly along the line. And, man, it just seems like every linebacker that puts the number 40 on, just something clicks. Maybe we need to start handing out the jersey number 40 every year to a linebacker because, geez, I mean, Devin White, Harold Perkins last year, Whit Weeks this year, it's like, man, they get on the field when they wear that number 40, you know they're a good linebacker. And man, he proved that this Saturday. The defense as a whole, though, played far better. It was their best game. I was really glad to see Major Burns get into action, got him a sack. But another freshman, obviously Whit Weeks had the greatest day in terms of freshmen. Caleb Jackson had the flashy play with the truck stick, but overall game, definitely Whit Weeks. Ryan Yates, though, was used in some, obviously Greg Brooks was out for the game, and therefore Ryan got more play time. And I really liked what I saw from Ryan. He was it seemed like he was always in the right spot. They even sent him on a few blitzes, a few corner blitzes, and he was getting there. He was almost getting there a couple times. And so, man, this freshman class seems to be really talented, and maybe a few guys that you're going to see on the field way more often. Greg Brooks, we already know is out for the next game as well against Arkansas. So you're going to see more of Ryan Yates, and we have to see more of Whit Weeks. Zach, I know you were having a conversation. Do you want to give your thoughts on Whit Weeks? I've kind of exhausted it, but if you want to give kind of your impression of it.
Sorry about that. Dad came in and
surprised
me with some Chick-fil-A, so thankful for that. But anyways,
awesome.
I mean, I was a little nervous, obviously because, Omar Spates has a ton of experience.
Absolutely.
He's an All-American out of the Big 12. And also
Pac-12.
Pac-12. Or he came from Oregon State, which doesn't even exist anymore. But anyways, he's a very experienced player. He's an All-American out of the Pac-12. And, you got a young guy, freshman. So, I mean, I was like, okay, cool. Like when I heard that Whit Weeks was going to get a lot of playing time, I was like, okay, awesome. But I also knew that there was a lot of people that were really high on Whit Weeks, like really high on Whit Weeks, that thought very highly of him. And yeah, I know. Right? He was one of them. But there's been a ton of people that have really liked what they have seen from Whit Weeks in fall camp and coming out of high school. And, they had that big first down conversion on the very first play of the drive. And then the very next play, they run an outside handoff towards the left tackle, and Whit Weeks comes and just blows it up, right?
Absolutely.
And I mean, Woody Marks is a good running back, and Whit Weeks came out of nowhere and didn't let him go anywhere. So
he bottled it up for sure.
Yeah. So, and I mean, he led your team in tackles, and so to say that out of a freshman, I think for a first game and your very first start, and it's on the road in the SEC, and you go out there and you play phenomenally, and you also lead the team in tackles. I mean, that's a statement. That's a statement to this staff. It's a statement to the fans. Like, hey, I'm here, and I deserve some more playing time. And I think you're going to see that. You're going to see a lot more playing time for him. Ready to transition a little bit because I don't know if you mentioned it while I was talking to Dad or while Dad was talking to me. Another player we haven't mentioned on defense is Greg Penn. Greg Penn has been getting a lot of action. You heard what BK said about him in this past week, in these past couple of days, and how he's pretty much like he's become the leader. Like he is the person that, as far as getting the team ready before the snap, like he is the person that gets the team set, knows where everybody's supposed to be, knows what the play call is. Like he is the one that is getting the troops together and prepared for battle. And Brian Kelly said himself, we are at our best when Greg Penn is in the rotation. So you're going to see Greg Penn a whole lot. I mean, he is going to be on the field the majority of the snaps with, guys like Witt and West and Omar subbing in as well. But that's encouraging because we knew he had a pretty good season last year, and it seems like he is on track to have an even better season this year so far in these first 3 games.
Yeah, absolutely. He spoke really highly of Greg, so I'm excited to see what he can do as a leader. But you definitely saw him in the absence of Omar this past Saturday. It was very evident that he was kind of the guy out there, kind of being the captain for the defense.
And look,
and that's what he's supposed to be. He's in the middle of he's been in the middle of the field. He's the middle linebacker. He's supposed to be that.
How much does it speak to the depth of this team when you have two of the most experienced guys, Greg Brooks out and Omar Spates out, and this team seems like it didn't even skip a beat. Not only did it seem like they didn't skip a beat, it seems like they took a step forward, right, defensively. So, yeah, I mean, there was nothing but good things really to speak about this weekend. I mean, the only thing that, was kind of disappointing, a couple of things that I saw that were a little disappointing. This hasn't been mentioned hardly at all. I think it's a little concerning. I think it's too concerning, but I think it's worth mentioning. I'll get to that. Let me go to this first. One of the concerning things obviously was the kick returns. You got to be able to get the ball. You got to be able to kick the ball out of the end zone. Nathan Dybert's got to be able to get it out of the end zone consistently a little bit more because it's obvious that our kick return unit is not great. Good, not great. There was too many times that we allowed a really good return. And I understand State's guys, they're good. They're good kick returners.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He's the guy who is returning kicks Saturday is the best in the country. So, I'll give him a little bit of a break, but it's got to be better for sure.
It's got to get fixed a little bit there. You got to have better coverage. The other thing that I was going to mention that I was saying I haven't heard mentioned anywhere is you took some really early timeouts and you wasted all 3 of your timeouts really, really early. And a lot of that was because you just I don't know if it was just because they didn't get the play in on time or Jaden didn't get the offense set on time, but there was a couple of times your clock was winding down, you were getting near the end of the clock and you had to take a timeout. You really want to save your timeouts to when you're near the end of the half. And LSU kind of had a chance there at the end of half if they wanted to take it. Now, I was okay with them not taking it, but they got the ball back with 50 seconds left. They didn't have any timeouts because they had already used all of them. If you have 2 timeouts, potentially all 3 of your timeouts, then does Brian Kelly decide to take the chance there? I think he would, but he didn't have his timeouts. And you're getting the ball in the second half. You were dominating them. Why risk a turnover? Just go ahead, run it out, go to half. Understand that. But if you have the timeouts, I think that completely changes Brian Kelly's mind of potentially trying to get down the field, maybe give Ramos a chance at a long field goal, which he hasn't had a whole lot of chances with this week.
He's been solid, though.
He's been solid, but I think he probably needs some tougher distances, probably between
hasn't had to be challenged. Yeah.
He hasn't really had to be challenged yet. I mean, on one of the hashes, have a kicking field goal from one of the hashes, one of those things. I think in game, those are some of the things, if you get the opportunity, you want to work on because you have the potential to be in some really close games this year. When you go to Oxford, potentially this weekend against Arkansas, when you go to Tuscaloosa, I mean, you're going to have some potentially close games this year where it may come down to a field goal, and you want to have confidence that your kicker can be consistent between 40 and 50 yards and from hash to hash. You want to have that. So, I would have liked to see there be a little bit better, management with the timeout so that potentially you get a chance there to either drive and score more or give Ramos a chance. And that's not being talked about. I think it's something to be mentioned. I don't think it's a huge concern, but I think it's something to be mentioned. Have we talked about the offense, Reagan? I mean, holy cow. Malik Neighbors is arguably, he is one of the best wide receivers in the country. I think he made a statement this weekend, and he has the potential, if he keeps having games like this, he could potentially be easily in the running for the Blitnikoff. Jaden Daniels, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he easily could be in New York. Kern Dog said JD5 keeps playing like this. He will be in New York at the end of the year, and LSU will be in the college football playoff. Also, y'all have to excuse me. I've been dealing with a cold, so as you can tell, I'm a little stuffy. So forgive me on that. I was sick yesterday, didn't go to work. I'm dealing with some sinus crud and stuffiness. So if I sound weird, that is why. But anyways,
you
Reagan,
sound weird. You sound weird.
The offense was phenomenal,
It was awesome.
Reagan.
Yeah, it was everything you wanted it to be.
I know you mentioned this already, but it seems like the top two guys in the running back room have really emerged out of Logan Diggs. Seems like Logan Diggs is your bell cow, and Caleb Jackson is kind of that guy you bring in with fresh legs. Seems like John Emery is going to get some touches. Josh Williams is going to be, again, just kind of that, like, when you need a yard, when you need your most trusted back, that's going to be Josh Williams, right? Seems like John Emery is going to have opportunities to get some plays out of the backfield in the receiving game. We haven't seen, which weird, Reagan, we haven't seen Trey Bradford since the opening game, since really the first quarter of that opening game. I mean, he scored the first touchdown for LSU this season. He was the first one to touch the ball outside of Charles Turner and Jaden Daniels on the snap exchange. Like, he was the first one to touch the ball, had a massive play. Like, haven't seen him at all since then.
Yeah, I think the emergence of Logan Diggs and Caleb Jackson really has something to do with that. I mean, I don't see why running back 1 isn't Logan Diggs and running back 2 isn't Caleb Jackson. I mean, I know, I get they're going to do the running back by committee, but you really need to feature Caleb Jackson and Logan Diggs more than anybody. I'm okay. I'm totally okay with bringing Josh Williams in for when you need him, and or the other guys need a rest, or you need to get a down, or you need to get a block, or whatever it may be. I'm totally fine with that. John Emery too. But man, you've got to feature Logan Diggs and Caleb Jackson in this offense. There's just no excuse. There's no excuse to not to. When you give the ball to Logan Diggs, it seems like he always falls forward for an extra 3 yards. He always is going forward. You just have not seen Logan Diggs go back yet. You haven't.
There was a play, Reagan, and we discussed this during the game, and I mentioned it to y'all. There was a play where he got stood up at the line. He turned around. He did a 180, put his back to the line, and started digging his heels in, driving backwards.
Push back, yeah.
Like, with his feet, digging his feet in and driving backwards. Because, I mean, he got held up at the line, and he turned around and just started driving backwards. Yeah, I mean, I think Logan Diggs definitely needs to get the ball more. And like you said, I understand it's going to be a running back by committee. I understand there's very limited, carries that are going to be had there. And I do believe that Jaden Daniels is going to be your feature, your main guy rushing, and your main guy that's going to be having the bulk of the yardage when it comes to rushing. But Logan Diggs, Caleb Jackson.
I'd rather it be Logan Diggs, yeah. rather it be that way.
I'd rather it be that way because how many times did Jaden Daniels get popped this weekend against State? I mean,
slide, get out of bounds. Good night.
Yeah, I mean, you had
call.
the really big targeting. I mean, which again, I didn't think it was targeting, but I mean, it was targeting by definition.
Yeah, I didn't like the targeting. The rule needs to be changed.
I didn't like the call, but anyways, I mean, he got popped really, really hard, and there was a couple of times he got popped, and like, dude needs to slide, dude needs to get out of bounds, dude needs to stop jumping in the air. Like, you're look,
all the above.
We love you. We understand you're extremely
athletic. We need you healthy.
We understand you're an elite runner, but
and you're trying to get every yard you want to. Yeah.
The last thing that I want to happen is you get injured, and then all these Nuss Bus fans are going absolutely berserk because here comes Nuss. Like, I can't deal with that, Jaden. So
there's no way the Nuss Bus is still chugging after this.
Do me a favor, Jaden. Slide, get out of bounds. It'd be much appreciated.
Protect yourself. All right, Zach. I think we've covered everything. I could talk about this game all day. It was everything it was everything you wanted it to be, LSU fans. So you got to be happy with what you saw on Saturday. With that being said, watching this LSU game and then watching what else is going on around college football, you really like where LSU is right now. So we'll talk about that when we get back right after this break. Zach, run that thing.
5-Star Hero, your intro and outro music for the Tigers Avenue show. They ain't ready for that LSU. Go check out all his other music on all the major platforms. Don't forget to follow him on Instagram at Saints Anthem and at Twitter at One Nation Doty. Don't forget to check out his Facebook page for all his Saints and LSU merchandise. Can't get any better than Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law. Her firm focuses on the needs of the elderly and maintaining their dignity throughout the process. Here for you, here for your family. Sarah Klein Stevens, attorney at law.
Zach, LSU obviously has the dominating performance, 41-14. But, man, there were some other things around college football that, as an LSU fan, you're like, Yeah. This still can be a very special season.
Yeah.
Zach, first and foremost, you have to talk about what went down in Tampa, Florida with Alabama and South Florida.
Yeah.
That, by far, is the most, I don't even know what to call it, dumbfounding games I have ever seen coached by Nick Saban. Ever.
Yeah.
That was crazy. That was so unique. It was weird.
Which, if Jalen Milroe gets the ball in that game, I really think, you probably have more of a game where, it looks way more comfortable when people aren't even talking. Like, if Jalen Milroe gets the ball in that game, I don't think people are even talking about this game at all. Yeah. But I think Saban wanted to make a point of going out and trying out these guys because Jalen Milroe has been inconsistent. He's been an okay quarterback. He hasn't been great by any means, that is for sure.
Right.
So some people have been saying that this was, a statement by Nick Saban to, kind of show Tommy Rees like, okay, we tried your guy, and it's not working. Now you need to figure out Jalen Milroe is my guy. Figure out what to do with him, and figure out the best way to work this offense around Jalen Milroe. And honestly, that's going to have to be what Alabama does. They don't have a lot of elite players on the outside, at wide receiver. I mean, Jermaine Burton's a pretty good guy. There's other guys.
Isaiah Bond.
Yeah, you got Isaiah Bond and some other guys out there that are pretty good. The running back room is not as elite as it was before. I mean, Rodell Williams is pretty good.
McClellan's solid.
McClellan is pretty good as well, but like it
It's not
they're
what you're
just
used
not
to.
what they used to be. They're just not what they used to be. And honestly, Jalen Milroe might be your best athlete on that offense. So why in the world would you take him out? And some people were saying, I see Ryan put it in there. Was there a potential that Milroe was unofficially suspended? Potentially, maybe. We saw him really cheering on the sidelines and rooting on his teammates. Is that because he's a really good sportsman and a really good teammate?
Good teammate.
Or is that because he knew he was suspended and he knew he already had the job? And he didn't have to worry about it. He could just kind of root on his teammates. And you're like, hey, good job. I'm not in this game, but good job, Tyler. Good job, Ty.
Right.
Whatever. That's a good point that Ryan makes. I'm not sure, but either way, yeah, it didn't look good, Reagan, at all. We'll see how the rest of the year plays out for Bama. They have a really big test this weekend against Ole Miss. I think we're going to find out who the true Bama is this weekend whenever they play Ole Miss. And I think you'll find out who the true Ole Miss is when they play Bama this weekend.
Right. I'm definitely going to be tuning into that game for sure. That has a lot of implications on how the West is going to play out. So definitely going to be watching that game for sure. If Bama loses this weekend to Ole Miss, you're probably looking at the SEC championship going down in Oxford. Like really.
The SEC West being decided, yep.
Yeah, being decided in Oxford. I don't really think A&M is going to be in that mix. That's really your only other threat, but I don't think so.
Well, you also,
but Milroe's definitely the guy.
Milroe's the guy. Which in speaking of the SC West, I think we'll talk about it more in depth next Friday about Arkansas. But obviously Arkansas took a big loss this weekend to BYU. That was kind of surprising, especially how that game started. They jumped out 14-0 just like that. And so you were expecting a dominating game, and then Arkansas just let BYU hang around, and BYU is not a good team. They're just not. They're an okay team, I think they're like 116th or something like that nationally in offense. They have a pretty good defense nationally. I think they're like 50th. But overall, just not a great team. And so Arkansas got beat. LSU is going to have to really hone in and not try to overlook that game and look to Ole Miss. But
sure.
Arkansas had a rough weekend. Georgia had a really rough start against South Carolina. They ultimately kind of dominated that second half and were able to figure some things out offensively. Maybe that helps Georgia get going a little bit here, but I'm still not impressed with Georgia. Tennessee goes to the Swamp. I thought Tennessee was going to be able to come out of the Swamp with a win. They went to the Swamp and got handled. They got handled. I thought it'd be close.
Destroyed.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. Like I thought that game would be close, and I really thought Tennessee would come out victorious. But man, they got absolutely handled. And I don't necessarily think it's because like Florida's like, okay, Florida had a rough week one. Now look at them. I think it's really just because that was two teams that are good teams, but not great teams, and it was just
maybe even okay teams.
Maybe even okay, just okay.
Maybe Florida's a decent team.
Maybe Florida is a little bit better than we thought, and maybe Tennessee's really not near as good as we thought they would be. Right? So again, it's still early. We're still finding things out, but where you sit right now, LSU looks really, really good. And when you go nationally, you had some, you think about Texas. Texas, after coming off the big win against Bama, struggled against Wyoming. That game
losing at half in Texas.
That game was 10-7 at half, which ultimately Texas ended up pulling away. Florida State.
What does that say about Alabama? What does that say about
Yeah,
Alabama?
that's the
Texas
first thing I
game.
said. What does that say about Bama?
Yeah.
We don't know. It may just been a little bit of a hangover from the Bama game for Texas.
Maybe so.
We'll find out.
Maybe so.
Florida State had to really scratch away, scratch off a win with going to Boston College, and I understand that was a big emotional game for them. It was the red bandana
Right.
game, so I understand. There was a lot of emotion behind that for Boston College. Maybe that was just part of Boston College playing up for that game, and maybe Florida State, kind of sleepwalking a little bit there. But
Yeah.
Florida State had to survive. That this past weekend. You also had Colorado State. I fully expected Colorado to go in there and absolutely demolish Colorado State. That did not happen. Took double overtime for Colorado to beat, in my opinion, a bad Colorado State team. So maybe the hype around Colorado is diminishing a little bit. Now you got to go to Oregon. Or do they host Oregon? Is it to Oregon?
They go to Oregon. They go to Oregon, and then they come back home for USC.
Yeah, so that's brutal, man. So we'll see. Maybe that hype train comes down a little bit. We're about to find out. But anyways, Reagan, around college football, man. After this weekend and after what we saw out of the SEC teams, out of what we saw nationally, seems like not only the SEC but nationally seems like there is still a lot of figuring out
a lot of unknowns
that's going to be happening. A lot of unknowns. Kind of feels like an anomaly. You really don't. Reagan, I would say Florida State, but even after this weekend, I'm like, I don't know if there's a team that is like one team that's just really separated themselves, above after
maybe
week
Michigan,
one, maybe Michigan, maybe.
Haven't been really tested though.
Like last year though, like after week one, like you were going, Georgia's really freaking good. Like Georgia's probably going to go undefeated until they hit the SEC championship, and maybe they get tested there. Like we were saying, like Georgia's going to be back in the college football playoff pretty easily, and that's ultimately what happened this year. I don't think there's a lot of questions. It could be a 2007 type year. I don't know. We're going to find out,
dude. There's one that you're going to get some answers this weekend. Notre Dame has looked really good with Sam Hartman being there. Sam Hartman is a really good quarterback and has elevated Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They're going to play Ohio State. Ohio State has not looked that impressive.
They haven't played anybody.
Haven't really been tested. So I think that's another game that you're going to look to maybe answer some questions for them. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't think people are going to like it, though. I know LSU fans aren't going to like it, but Notre Dame, I think, wins that game. And I think Notre Dame is a legitimate college football playoff contender this year. Under Sam Hartman, Sam Hartman just is that guy. Like, he's really, really good. He was really good at Wake Forest, transferred to Notre Dame, and I was like, dang, like that is a really good transfer that they picked up. And he's proven it. I think Notre Dame beats them this weekend.
Yep, we're going to find out. All right, Reagan. Well, I think we've gone around college football. Let's just wrap up a few more things here, and then we will close out the show. So LSU, outside of the football side of things with LSU has recently landed 2 pitchers as far as the baseball front goes. LSU landed
pitchers.
Maverick Ritzie, who is the #1 player out of Massachusetts, right-handed pitcher, and they also landed the junior college pitcher Connor Ware, who is also just a stud. So LSU continues to build their pitching staff and look for that to continue. Seems like Jay Johnson is just really, really focusing a lot on these last year, obviously bringing in Paul Skeens, and you brought in Nate Ackenhausen, you brought in some other guys, and you kind of solidified some guys coming back that, obviously you had Thatcher Hurd as well. Like, it seems like Jay Johnson is like really, really focusing on pitching. which is good because LSU doesn't have issues getting the skill position player guys. In regards to baseball, like they really don't have issues with that. So it's always been, at least in our years watching, it's been pitching. It's been the pitching. You've had good, pretty good weekend guys, but it's been like the bullpen has always been, an issue at times for LSU in the years that we've been watching them. So seems like Jay Johnson's trying to shore up this pitching staff and get another righty, get another lefty. I mean, golly, LSU is going to be about 50-50 about, with all these righties and lefties coming. I mean, next year they're going to have more lefties than they will righties, but holy cow, that's insane. So just some news on the baseball front.
Just a little,
some other
Zach,
news.
a little tidbit on Connor Ware. I don't know if you know this or not, but he's coming from Pearl River Community College.
Yep. Mississippi.
Down there close to our family. And I don't know if y'all know this or not, but he is brothers. Not brothers. He is the brother of Bryson Ware, one of Auburn's best players. So, I mean, think about that. Think about Jay Johnson being able to pull this guy away from another SEC program where his brother played. And he's also another left-handed pitcher and really good. But yeah, I found that interesting. The fact that he was able to land Connor and not go to Auburn. So,
yep. So kind of some news there on the baseball front in these last couple of days with two pitchers committing. Also, Reagan, you mentioned it a little bit. Greg Brooks, where things are kind of still up in the air with him as far as, what's going on,
Yeah, I have no idea. No idea.
That really there's not a lot circulating. I mean, you can kind of make your assumptions. They're listing it as a medical issue, medical emergency, whatever you want to call it.
Ryan Kelly has called it a medical emergency every time I've heard him say it.
Medical emergency. So seems like for the time being, you're just going to have to kind of accept the fact that Greg Brooks is not around. And it doesn't seem like it's a bad. I mean, as far as bad thing, like on him, because they have been very vocal about how they were playing for Greg Brooks and things like that.
Right. So, something's happened. Something's happened.
Yeah. So I don't want to poke at the bear or assume anything like that. But
BK also said it was like a family issue too. So I really don't know what to make of it.
Correct.
But
so prayers for Greg Brooks and him and his family, whatever is going on. Hopefully we'll
respect his privacy.
For sure. We'll respect his privacy. Hopefully it's nothing, super, super serious that is, I don't know. But anyways, we'll continue to monitor that and wish him and his family the best of luck with whatever situation they're dealing with. Omar Spates, I would kind of expect, I think we're going to see him back. Maybe we're going to find out here in a couple of days, the injury report, obviously Mason Taylor. So a couple of days, we're going to find out what the status is of Mason Taylor and Omar Spates. And then we'll, obviously begin to preview the Arkansas game on Friday. Yeah. Reagan, I'm trying to get my buddy old Pit Dog in here. Pit Dog. Yeah. Pit Dog is a massive, massive Arkansas fan. He also is part of the reason, I would say he is part of the inspiration for Tigers Avenue because him and I back in college, we had a radio show that we called Co-Pro. We covered college. We covered college and professional sports on an actual radio broadcast that we did. And we had a lot of fun with that. Me and him loved doing that show. We loved talking LSU, loved talking the Hogs. And I know he is a really big Hog fan. I know he follows Arkansas very closely. So I'm working on having him join us on Friday for the show to preview LSU Arkansas. I know he'll be also very knowledgeable of Arkansas, the Arkansas football team. So I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully we can pull off having him on the show and previewing that game. So, Reagan, I think that's all I got for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate all you.
Not to give way. My head's stuff. I'm probably going to take me some sort of Benadryl and knock out.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys, it's been a great show here tonight, recapping everything from this past weekend. Really, really impressive win from the Tigers. This coming Friday, we will preview the Hogs and the Tigers. Nighttime kickoff in Death Valley. I'm so pumped.
Yes, sir.
Opening SEC home opener at night in the Valley. Really excited for it. We hope to see you in the next show as we preview that. Appreciate it, guys, and all your interaction. Ryan, you've been awesome. You've been in here commenting the whole time. Appreciate you as well. We'll catch you next time. Yeah, RP was there too. I don't know if we saw Tyler tonight. Tyler wasn't there tonight, but
Leslie was in here. Appreciate Leslie being here. I'm sure Tyler will watch later. Kern Dog.
Kern Dog.
Appreciate him joining us as well.
Kern Dog. All right, guys. We'll see you next time here on the Tigers Avenue. 5-Star here. Take us out. Peace.